Ripple RLUSD. Well, let's take it to the books. XRP is pumped since yesterday's stream. It's looking really good. Looking real nice, pumping from the exact trend line that we have here. From that yellow thin line that I drew. And now what do we have to do? We have to create another daily candle right above this line, dude. If we do that, that is going to be very strong momentum for what's to come on the weekly RSI that is just shot upward to a higher angle. You see this? We were going sideways and up, and I said that was nice. Now we've indented even higher, and we haven't even reached the 80 mark on the RSI. That is very, very bullish for XRP as we come towards the weekend. Let's put it on the monthly chart. The monthly chart has put a halting screech to the downward momentum, and that was last week. You remember in my video, if you look at all my streams, you could see I don't fucking lie, dude. Everything I say on my stream, I say it. There's no script for this shit. I just go along with what the charts tell me. So we came to a screeching halt right at the 50-yard line. We turned the corner, and now the blue line is leading the way. Blue line, upside, momentum, bullish. Now, what would really tweak this is if we see this blue line create another indentation up to where it leaves this yellow line for a chase. Okay, where the blue line leads now and the yellow line is falling behind, chasing the blue line. That is a very, very bullish scenario. And to me, it's setting up, it's primed, it's setting up for movement like that. Now, today, Brad Garlinghouse is going to speak he might be speaking right now. I don't know if there's sound. Can you guys hear sound when I play this? Anyway, we'll mute that. We'll do that later. I'm not really worried about that because, we'll probably pump the price. But here we go. XRP is kind of due for the breakout as we've been trading in this channel zone, right? And towards the end of this channel is where the breakout is expected to happen, whether it's either this week or next week or the week after. We're expecting July to be a little breakout for XRP. Now, XLM is the winner today, guys. XLM, XRP's little brother, right? Just popped out on the daily chart. Look at this daily candle. Yesterday, we were right on this 25-cent mark, okay? And last night before I went to bed, I put a fucking long in. And look at the movement we got. We got from 25 straight to 29 cents, and now it's holding strong. Let's check out the RSIs. Remember the other day on my stream, I said the RSI can come to the top here, flatline, and have this chase it. And it did exactly that. And you know what that leaves room for? Another indentation of the blue line to the upside, because we need to capsize at 100. Okay? These things go to the top at 100. Do you see? Do you see? So we need to do that. And then the correction will happen. Okay? How long that correction will last? Possibly very short. Okay? Possibly shorter than what we've been experiencing in the prior months, because now we're going to a different type of market structure. We've changed market structure on XLM. Okay? So this is the turning point, guys. This is the turning point. Any dip from here on out is a good buy. All right? That's just my opinion. So we have XLM, XRP leading the way for the altcoin markets. And also, if we go to coin market cap, I think XRP is going to flip, what do you call it? USD Tether today or tomorrow or this week, right? So let's take a look. Look, 139, 158. XRP is absolutely going to flip. There's no doubt about it. Let's see where Stellar is right now. Stellar's at number 15. With one of the highest blue chip risers today is XLM, right? XLM is leading the race today in altcoins, and it could be that XRP and XLM, not Ethereum, could be the push for the altcoin run, the trigger, right? Look at my chart right here on the right side, okay? Look at the percentage changes. Nothing in this list is big, right? Like XLM, a 12% move, okay? This is the accumulation zone. This is the accumulation zone, okay? This was the bear, accumulation, and the bull. It's time to accumulate. You know, it's last call. It's last call. So that is XLM. XLM has just had a very powerful movement. And I told you guys, right? When we get these powerful movements, this is a daily candle. This is a weekly candle. When we get these big movements to the upside, right? It only takes a week or two for it to go back up again. Okay? That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Let me see if this is up and running.
Millions and millions of dollars just to guess at what's legal. In fact, we've seen agencies like the SEC and the CFTC contradict each other while the American people are left just to guess and, frankly, left behind. That confusion has consequences. Innovation is leaving, jobs are leaving, and the global competitors are filling that vacuum. That's why the Senate Banking Committee Republicans have put forward clear principles for market structure legislation, principles that recognize the need to clarify and clearly define what is a commodity, what is a security, and how digital assets can trade and be custodied in a way that fosters
opportunities for innovation, risks to investors, our financial system, and our national security have also increased at the same time. Consider some recent data. According to the FBI, Americans lost more than $9 billion to cryptocurrency fraud last year. And it's the trend lines that are particularly concerning. It's a 66% increase from the year before. According to Chain Analysis, North Korean hackers stole a record $1.3 billion from crypto platforms in 2024 and then turned around and topped it in just a single heist with a $1.5 billion heist earlier this year. According to TRM Labs, quote, terrorist organizations demonstrated increased sophistication in their use of cryptocurrency, turning to unhosted wallets, mixers, and privacy coins like Monero. We need a crypto regulatory framework that reduces these risks, but I am concerned that what my Republican colleagues are aiming for is another industry handout that gives the crypto lobby exactly its wish list, the blessing of our government's approval, combined with crypto rules that are weaker than the rules that every other financial actor must follow. The crypto industry may be calling the shots for Republicans, but nobody wants weak crypto rules more than the President of the United States. A majority of President Trump's wealth, as much as $7 billion worth, is now based in crypto, from issuing his own stable coin, to issuing his own meme coin, to owning a Bitcoin mining company, and to controlling a huge portfolio of crypto investments. Again, according to Chainalysis, the president and his associates pocketed more than $320 million in fees alone from the Trump meme coin, while the majority of retail investors who bought that same token actually lost money. Now, if we're going to provide rules of the road for crypto,
welcome to crypto,
we
Miss
need
Warren.
to shut down the super highway for presidential corruption at the same time. We need crypto legislation that will strengthen our financial system, not make it worse. Here are principles that I think should guide our work. First, new crypto rules shouldn't open a back door to destroy the securities laws that have served as the bedrock of our capital markets for nearly 100 years. I'm particularly worried here because some recent proposals, including the Clarity Act that the House is voting on this week or next week, include language that would allow non-crypto companies to tokenize their assets in order to evade SEC regulations. Think for just a minute about what that means. Under the House bill, a publicly traded company like Meta or Tesla could simply decide to put its stock on the blockchain and poof, it would escape all SEC regulation. That is a serious problem for our country. Second, crypto investors should have the same protection from getting scammed or getting cheated as investors in any other asset. Doesn't have to be bigger, but it should be the same. For example, there is no reason that the rules prohibiting stock exchanges from simultaneously serving as brokers and giving preferential treatment to their own trades over their customers.
Yeah.
We have rules against that elsewhere. Those same rules should apply to the crypto market too. Third, ensure that turmoil in the crypto market doesn't infect our traditional financial system. And that means making sure that taxpayers are not on the hook for backstopping risky crypto bets, and that crypto exchanges, crypto dealers, and other intermediaries face strong capital liquidity and risk management safeguards so they can meet their obligations to consumers and counterparties, even in times of market stress. Fourth, counter the threat of illicit finance with common sense rules to fight crime and protect our national security. Crypto service providers that act as financial institutions must be required to implement anti-money laundering programs. Republicans refused to strengthen AML rules and close sanctions loopholes in the Genius Act, and their claim was that they would deal with this in the crypto market structure bill. Well, this is it. No more kicking the can down the road. Now is the time to solve that problem. And finally, if Congress is going to ratify a sweeping crypto regulatory regime, it is critical to shut down the president's crypto corruption. This means prohibiting public officials, including the President of the United States, prohibiting public officials from issuing, sponsoring, or profiting.
Thank you, Senator Warren. We will now move to witness testimony. Today we have 6 witnesses before us. Our first witness is the Honorable Summer Mersinger, CEO of Blockchain Association. Ms. Messenger, you now have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Scott, Ranking Member Warren, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Summer Mersinger, and I'm the CEO of Blockchain Association. We're the leading collective voice of the digital asset industry in the United States, representing more than 130 of the most innovative job creators and stakeholders in the blockchain ecosystem. Our members, many of whom are startups and small businesses, are building the next generation of the internet and a new wave of finance here in the United States.
Ooh.
From software developers
Talk
and
that
infrastructure
shit.
providers to investment firms and trading platforms, we are proud to advocate for the responsible growth of this transformative technology. I'm here today to deliver a unified message from our industry. The United States urgently needs clear, comprehensive, and carefully designed rules for digital assets. Without thoughtfully crafted rules for the road, we risk stifling innovation, leaving American consumers without proper safeguards and protections, and ceding leadership in a sector that will define the future of global finance and technology. Regulating the industry with existing laws has created ambiguity, stifling American innovation, and driving entrepreneurs to jurisdictions with clearer legal frameworks. While jurisdictions like the EU, the UK, Japan, and Singapore are implementing bespoke digital asset frameworks, the United States is falling behind. It's not a matter of whether to regulate, it's how. We need bipartisan legislation that provides clarity, encourages responsible innovation, and reinforces America's role as a global leader in financial innovation. To guide that effort, Blockchain Association has put forward 12 principles that we believe should form the foundation of any durable market structure legislation. Let me highlight a few key themes of our principles, many of which are similar to and align with the Senate Banking Committee Crypto Market Structure Principles released recently by Chairman Scott, Senators Lummis, Tillis, and Hagerty. First, we need a functional and modern framework tailored to the realities of the blockchain ecosystem. This space includes not just traditional financial intermediaries, but also software developers, validators, and other participants who don't fit neatly into 20th century regulatory categories. Second, we must recognize that digital assets are not inherently securities. Much of the current confusion stems from attempting to apply the 1946 Howey test to this technology. Code is not a security. Third, there must be a clear, workable path for platforms to register and operate. Right now, no such path exists. Fourth, strong consumer protections are essential. Our industry fully supports consumer safeguards such as secure custody of customer funds, detailed disclosures, bans on market manipulation, and robust oversight. These are not regulatory burdens. They are the foundation of trust and resilience. Finally, we must view establishing a federal regulatory framework as a national priority. Digital assets and blockchain technology are revolutionizing financial services, supply chains, and digital identity. The country that leads on this policy will set global norms and unlock enormous economic and strategic benefits. The United States should be that leader. And this is our moment to lead. Blockchain Association and its members are not asking for a world without rules. We're asking for clear rules, rules that protect consumers, support innovation, and ensure that the next generation of the internet is built on American values. We urge this committee to seize this historic opportunity and pass meaningful bipartisan market structure legislation this year. We stand ready to be a resource in this endeavor. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Persinger. We will now turn to Jonathan Levin, CEO of Chain Analysis.
Chairman Scott, Ranking Member Warren, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity
Brad's
to be back
coming up
here to
next
testify.
after this guy, I think.
I'm Jonathan Levin, co-founder and CEO of Chainalysis, the blockchain data company. We maintain the largest database of blockchain intelligence, which powers prevention, investigation, and disruption of illicit activity on the blockchain. We serve over 1,500 clients worldwide, including the largest financial institutions, fintechs, and decentralized applications. We also support over 350 public sector agencies with tools, data, and services to fight illicit activity. Over the last 10 years of Chainalysis, we have partnered with law enforcement and industry to disrupt some of the largest threats to our national security and public safety. We have proudly helped the US government seize over $12.4 billion of criminal proceeds. These cases have included taking down the largest online drug marketplaces, seizing funds from Hezbollah and Hamas, dismantling the largest child abuse material websites, and tackling the latest pig butchering campaigns.
Jonathan Levin.
The power of our technology, combined with the authorities of law enforcement and the industry partnership, have proven to be a more effective disruptor of illicit activity than anything seen before in traditional finance.
This guy's the new age IRS.
Our mission at Chainalysis is to build trust in blockchains. All forms of value will be transferred using this technology. We are here to prevent abuse and pave the way for all people, businesses, and governments to leverage its potential. The United States can be the major beneficiary if we get the policy framework right and allow regulators to adapt and change with the pace of the technology. I have 3 policy insights that I want to share today with the committee. First, the blockchain introduces a fundamentally new model for financial oversight. We often hear the phrase in these rooms, same activity, same risk, same regulatory outcome. But the unprecedented visibility offered by the public blockchain has to be factored into the assessment of both activity and risk. With the right tools, the public ledger becomes a powerful resource for market participants, regulators, and law enforcement to protect financial integrity.
One world public ledger.
The consideration of different types of activity and risks should first use all of the available information about how these mechanisms work and the relative transparency and residual risk that are associated with these mechanisms. In contrast to traditional financial systems, the ongoing monitoring, oversight, and supervision of the system must be built first on publicly available information. Second, we need to equip government agencies to fully leverage this new paradigm. Getting the right regulations in place will require building capacity of different agencies and industry bodies to tackle the different types of risks, particularly as it relates to illicit finance and payments. It requires the government to understand the operational risks involved in the deployment of smart contracts and decentralized infrastructure and the accompanying mitigations.
These guys are like the crypto IRS.
It requires the government to leverage the transparency and available real-time information for effective supervision. And we need to be designing compliance regimes so that all institutions can engage with decentralized technologies. Government agencies with the right mandates and a focus on public-private partnerships will lead to the type of market infrastructure that all market participants are searching for. Third and finally, the blockchain actually enhances our ability to act quickly against illicit actors. As stated, following the money on the blockchain is actually easier than in traditional finance.
It actually
But furthermore, issuers of tokenized
It
assets
really is.
can actually take actions to easily freeze and seize assets. I'll give you an example.
What?
In a recent pig butchering case, crypto exchange OKX and stablecoin issuer Tether froze and then seized $225 million of criminal proceeds in collaboration with US Secret Service. The traceability and programmability of these assets is a key benefit in addressing illicit activity. At Chainalysis, we are proud to support the US government in our ability to keep the digital asset ecosystem
See,
safe.
they're like the
and I look forward to your
IRS of the fucking crypto space.
Thank you, sir. Next, we'll
I
hear
can
from
see
Mr.
right through
Dan
this
Robinson,
bullshit.
General Partner at Paradigm.
Right. And crypto, yeah, we're going through the formation. Oh shit, turn Dan mics up.
Chair Scott, Ranking Member Warren, Subcommittee Chair Lummis, Subcommittee Ranking Member Gallego, and distinguished members of the committee.
Whoa, Dan's cross-eyed.
Thank you for inviting me to testify today on the importance of crypto market structure legislation and how to safely and equitably grow the crypto industry in America. My name is Dan Robinson, and I serve as a general partner at Paradigm, which is a research-driven investment firm focused on crypto. My research work has focused on helping portfolio companies solve technical problems related to market and mechanism design, particularly for applications in decentralized finance, or DeFi. I'm here to talk about the benefits DeFi can bring to the financial system, why its promise could be strengthened by a well-designed market structure bill, and why a bill that doesn't take it into account could be harmful to innovation. Crypto provides an alternative to our traditional world of finance. What stablecoins do for money and payments, DeFi does for trading, lending, and other functions of the financial system. DeFi can reduce costs and improve accessibility by removing unnecessary frictions in the back-end infrastructure of Wall Street. Decentralized finance is in its infancy, but it has already had a tremendous effect on one small corner of the financial system, crypto itself. For many crypto natives, the natural place to trade is now on decentralized rather than centralized exchanges. Decentralized exchanges work very differently from centralized ones. One illustrative example is Uniswap, with over $1 billion in daily volume. The core of the Uniswap protocol is a set of smart contracts that allow any user to efficiently provide liquidity between any two assets. Anyone can use Uniswap to instantly trade with other users without ever giving up custody over their assets. These decentralized exchanges, much like stablecoins, run directly on blockchain rails. They are open, verifiable, and interoperable. This is a far cry from the opaque and fragmented back-end systems of today's Wall Street. With crypto, and especially with DeFi, we have a chance to radically upscale our markets to make them more efficient, more liquid, and more integrated across our economy. DeFi infrastructure could modernize the backbone of our financial system, reducing the fees paid by ordinary investors. Tokenized stocks could lower barriers to entry for investing in American companies. And prediction markets can be more broadly brought to bear across the economy, improving our ability to foresee unexpected outcomes and hedge risks accordingly. At the same time, markets do need rules. We at Paradigm believe it is important that crypto regulations be clear, fair, and equitable. We also think it has been an unforced error for the US to be one of the last major developed countries to enact legislation on crypto market structure. In the hopes of providing some hard-won wisdom from our experience in crypto, we released 17 principles for market structure legislation. I wanted to flag 3 of the most important. First, crypto assets should be commodities. Crypto assets are designed to be used, to interact with smart contracts, and in some cases, to pay for on-chain operations, not merely for investment. A token classification rubric based on the Lummis-Gillibrand ancillary assets approach would be the best way to reflect this principle. Next, any decentralized crypto asset exchange should not be required to register with the CFTC, SEC, or any other regulator. At base, a true DeFi protocol is software. Just as we do not ask Microsoft to register Excel with the SEC just because companies use it to track their IPOs, we should not demand the engineers of DeFi protocols register their software just because others use it to trade. Finally, DeFi should be protected and supported across the globe. No government should be allowed to impose global restrictions on the trading of crypto assets through DeFi. In this way, the US would be resurrecting the work done by our forefathers to protect the freedom of the seas in prior centuries, and, more recently, freedom of the internet. Let me close by stressing the tremendous potential opportunity that lies before you on market structure legislation. Every day, we at Paradigm see new ways that crypto will support economic growth in free markets. From prediction markets and DeFi to tokenized stocks, and even the use of Bitcoin mining to support the electric power grid.
And he's in
We are now
music?
even seeing crypto markets emerge for the trading of credits in AI compute. By enacting market structure legislation that is supportive of crypto, supportive of entrepreneurs, supportive of investors, and supportive of consumers, you can blaze the trail to those new markets.
Dan looks like a DeFi guy. You can tell this nigga
and I look
just
forward to
woke
your
up,
questions.
then washed his
Thank you,
hair
Mr.
and just
Robinson.
threw
Now
on a
return
suit,
to Mr. Garlinghouse.
didn't
You are
even
now
fix his
recognized for 5
eyeball.
minutes.
This motherfucker.
Good morning, Chair Scott.
Yeah.
Ranking Member
Let's
Warren,
fucking
and
go,
members of the
Brad.
committee.
You fucking
Thank you for
fuck.
the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Brad Garlinghouse. I'm the CEO of Ripple. Ripple has approximately 900 employees across our 15 offices worldwide. We were founded more than a decade ago with a mission to enable the Internet of Value, a world where money moves like information does today.
Keep your eye on the price.
We build software products that power cross-border payments, stablecoins, and digital custody. Ripple helps financial institutions reduce friction, unlock
coming down to a bounce area.
unlock efficiencies, and serve their customers better.
What if we get an extreme
These are not
bounce
abstract concepts. We work every day with banks that rely on our technology to deliver real results in the global economy. Ripple leverages the XRP ledger, a decentralized, battle-tested, open-source blockchain, as well as its native digital asset, XRP, to facilitate payments. XRP is built to enable fast, low-cost, and highly scalable transactions. From the start, Ripple made the deliberate choice to work with policymakers and regulators, not around them. We have taken a compliance-first approach, operating with over 60 payment, service, crypto, and money transmitter licenses domestically and globally. With regard to the topic of this hearing, we believe smart legislation should be based on several core principles. Consumers need protection from fraud and scams. Markets need proper oversight. Bad actors need to be kept in check. And innovation must thrive. A constructive and workable framework for digital assets and stablecoins that achieves these goals will expand access to financial markets, create jobs, strengthen the economy, and put the U.S. on the path to being a global blockchain and crypto leader. For the last decade, the legal and regulatory uncertainty surrounding crypto has prohibited meaningful progress in the U.S. At Ripple, we certainly saw firsthand how the lack of clear rules of the road can be weaponized to target good actors. In turn, the technology, jobs, and tax dollars that go with it are pushed offshore, reducing regulatory oversight and putting consumers at higher risk. This has severely harmed American businesses, investors, and most concerned consumers. Ripple was the tip of the spear for this regulation by enforcement campaign and was subject to an enforcement action in 2020. We were the first leading U.S. company to be sued by the SEC. We and many others understood that a loss here would be a death knell for the industry. Fortunately, after 4 years of a hard-fought legal battle, we prevailed. The court ruled in our favor on everything that mattered, including finding that the token XRP is not, in and of itself, a security. Our victory cleared the path for other market participants to fight back.
I'm not paying any taxes on my
Despite
XRP
these headwinds,
XLM game.
Ripple still prioritizes education and engagement with policymakers and regulators globally. For companies to have the confidence to continue doing business in the United States, Congress should focus on passing principled and smart legislation with these critical goals in mind.
I'm not paying any fucking taxes.
First,
on XRP,
set clear jurisdictional
XLM,
boundaries for our main
all that
financial
American
regulators.
bullshit. I ain't paying
Second,
shit.
establish pathways for companies to build in the U.S. without sacrificing investor or consumer protections. And third, ensure that the U.S. can be a global leader in crypto by taking full advantage of the benefits and efficiencies brought by digital assets and blockchain technologies. The U.S. possesses the world's deepest capital markets, the most advanced technical talent, and a spirit of innovation that has powered our nation since its founding. There is no reason we should not be the undisputed leader in digital assets and blockchain. Over 55 million Americans participate in the crypto economy today, equating to over a $3.3 trillion market cap. A smart regulatory framework for crypto market structure is essential to realize that future and is overdue.
China owns the AI
Speaking on
market.
behalf of the crypto industry, I urge you to prioritize the passage of market structure legislation for digital assets through this committee and the full Senate, to provide the rules and regulations needed to ensure that the U.S. becomes the crypto capital of the world. Once market structure legislation for digital assets becomes law in the United States, this will catalyze a new era of U.S. competitiveness and unlock efficiencies in financial transactions, dramatically helping consumers and businesses alike. Ripple hopes to see this become a reality, and we look forward to working with you to help make this happen. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Up next is the Honorable Timothy Massad at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University.
Thank you, Mr. Brad Garlinghouse.
Good morning, Chair Scott, Ranking Member Warren, members of the committee and staff. Thank you for inviting me today. My name is Timothy Massad. I'm former chairman of the CFTC, former Assistant Secretary of the Treasury. The views I express are my own and don't represent the views of the Kennedy School of Government.
Shout out to Central Casting. Look at
You know,
these
many of us are
motherfuckers
familiar
in
with the movie
background.
Groundhog Day,
Look at these hired
in which
actors
Bill
in the
Murray is
background.
condemned to
What the fuck are
repeat
these guys?
the same day over and over, and he finally escapes the time loop not through external means, but by changing his outlook on life. And I suggest that we're in a similar time loop when it comes to achieving clarity in the regulation of digital assets, and we need to change our outlook. There have been repeated congressional hearings calling for clarity and a series of legislative proposals, each claiming to provide clarity, but there's never been a consensus. And whether it's Lummis-Gillibrand, Fit 21, or the Clarity Act, they all have similar flaws.
Price check.
They rewrite securities laws to create a new category of digital assets that their proponents claim
1 hour and 30 minutes.
will forever solve the problem. But none will achieve the clarity or the sensible regulation that we
anytime it
need,
goes down
and
here,
each would
we're getting
undermine
those buys.
existing regulation. We need a different approach, and it requires recognizing a few facts. First, this is a technology. It's not an asset class. It will be used in many ways, including in tokenizing securities. Second, whether something in digital form is a security, a commodity, or neither cannot be easily defined by a paragraph or two in a statute. It depends on what the token represents, whether there is an issuer, whether the transaction is one in which capital is being raised, and so forth. Third, the technology and use cases are evolving rapidly, so we should not lock in definitions that will prove obsolete soon. And fourth, a principal reason for the lack of clarity is our fragmented regulatory system. We have two market regulators, neither of whom has full jurisdiction over the spot market for digital assets that are not securities. The industry has taken advantage of this gap by arguing that most use cases are not securities and can therefore be issued and traded without regulation. That has led to a lack of investor protection. Now, the primary regulatory response to date, court cases that seek to interpret the Howey test, has also not been sufficient. It was a whack-a-mole strategy, even when the particulars of a case made sense. But the solution is not for Congress to become the regulator. Instead, all these factors argue for creating a process by which the SEC and CFTC work together to provide the clarity and the necessary regulation. And legislation should provide them with the proper authority, principles, and flexibility to do so. But legislation that writes detailed rules and creates a binary classification scheme is bound to fail. Former SEC Chair Jay Clayton, who was appointed by President Trump, and I proposed this approach 2 years ago. We said Congress should mandate that the SEC and CFTC work together through a self-regulatory organization or otherwise to develop joint rules that would apply to every intermediary that trades or handles Bitcoin or ETH. Now that was the jurisdictional hook. It establishes jurisdiction over the market without, as we said, debating classification of each token or Congress pursuing tortured rewriting of existing definitions of securities and commodities. We also said that rewriting existing law might fail to bring clarity and inadvertently undermine decades of regulation and jurisprudence as they apply to traditional securities and commodities markets.
Shout out to the last guy.
Our existing securities and commodities markets are the foundation of the U.S. economy and the envy of the world. Their strength and integrity rests on a regulatory framework that has been gradually and thoughtfully developed over almost 100 years. And therefore, a key principle for market structure legislation must be do no harm to that regulatory framework. The latest market structure proposal, like its predecessors, instead revises the securities laws in various ways that will create more confusion than clarity. For example, it creates a broad exemption for activities described as decentralized finance, which will lead to migration of regulated activity into an unregulated sphere. Decentralized activities may warrant different regulations to achieve our regulatory goals, but not a free pass. It provides an exemption from securities laws for raising funds to build a mature blockchain system, but you don't actually need to build it. You only need to have an intent to do so. The exemption isn't needed, and it will be misused. And finally, it will not even regulate all the crypto activity taking place on centralized platforms today. It will, however, provide many
We're
opportunities
about out of time, sir, so.
for smart lawyers to engage in regulatory arbitrage. I thank you for your time, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. And finally, we have Mr. Richard Painter from the University of Michigan, University of Minnesota School of Law.
Thank you very much, Chairman Scott, and I thank Ranking Member Warren for inviting me to testify today.
We gotta get this guy out of here too. What the
urge,
fuck does this guy
this
know about
committee
what's about to
and the
happen
House
and what we
and
need?
the Senate to very carefully look at this bill and consider whether this bill will soundly regulate the cryptocurrency markets, the market structure.
If you don't get the
We
fucking
cannot
Kentucky
repeat
Fried Colonel,
the mistakes
fuck out
of the
here,
past. 100 years
dude. We
ago,
don't see
there were hearings in the House and Senate to regulate the banking industry. And Congressman Louis McFadden of Pennsylvania introduced a bill that eventually became the McFadden Act of 1927. They thought they had the perfect solution to bring banking into the modern age and have the United States be the premier center for banking in the world. The regulatory structure that was framed in 1927, the McFadden Act, was informed largely by lobbyists from the bank industry, and it lasted 3 years. The banks collapsed in 1930. Congress had not regulated the banking industry, even though it said it did. Fast forward to the 1990s, when I was writing in the field of securities regulation, and securities-based swaps and derivatives were coming on the scene. And the argument was made that a securities-based swap is not a security. A stock can be a security, but not a securities-based swap that is based on that stock. And it took years to figure out how to regulate securities-based swaps agreements. Under the Clinton administration, under the Bush administration,
Is he talking real
we
shit?
had years of lax regulation, deregulation of the banking sector, laws passed by this Congress, and we saw what happened in 2008. We do not want to make that mistake again. I implore you to carefully look through this bill. Listen to the industry experts who are here today.
Oh, yeah, I like
listen to Chairman Massad about his experience as a regulator. Consider carefully whether we should be drafting, passing through Congress, a very detailed bill that locks a lot of definitions in stone, or rather take up Chairman Massad's recommendation that we have the SEC and the CFTC, the regulators, work together to respond to evolving market conditions. Consider whether it would make sense to define a stock as a security, but not the tokenization of that stock. Think through these issues. Please do not make the same mistake that this Congress has made so many times before. And last, I want to emphasize how important it is that conflicts of interest of members of the Congress and the President of the United States not influence the regulation of cryptocurrency or any other industry. Under 18 United States Code 208, it is a criminal offense for a United States government official to participate in a government matter that affects their own financial interests. A Treasury Secretary who is regulating cryptocurrency or issuing meme coins and investing in a crypto business would commit a felony. But Congress has exempted itself from that statute.
XLM. Whoa, look at XLM, bro.
From that statute and the Vice President.
Whoa, look
that
at the RSI slammed at the top like I said they would, and they're going to stay there for a minute.
Of passing legislation and
I see
enforcing
this shit. I feel
legislation,
this shit before it
implementing
even happens,
legislation,
because I
have
can. I've
conflicts
seen
of
it a bunch of
interest
times,
with
y'all.
their official responsibilities.
Where are we going?
That
Where are we
includes
going?
every
Yes, we
member
are
of the
going
House
right
and
there to
Senate.
that yellow line. I
You
don't
should
give
be
a fuck what
divesting
you
from
say.
crypto
I don't give a
if you're
fuck
going to
what
be
you say.
regulating crypto. And the President of the United States as well. The integrity of our financial system
I gotta go to
depends
work.
upon this.
Oh man, I gotta
We've
shut
watched this
stream down.
movie
Guys,
before.
good shit.
Congress passes laws to
Listen.
regulate the financial sector,
One
and it
thing
ends in
before
a
I go,
disaster
let's look
because
at the
it was
daily.
not regulated. Please do not repeat
The
that
daily
mistake.
is slammed.
We don't want to watch this movie
Yellow
again,
needs to catch
and we
up.
do not want
There's
to
room
watch a
for the
movie
upside.
that is a combination
Weekly.
of West Wing or the House
Oh
of
my
Cards
God.
and The Big
Oh
Short.
my God. We're gonna go
Please,
up to the 80 mark on the
do your
RSI,
jobs.
which means
Represent
price
us, the
action
American
will go
people.
up more.
Protect our
Okay?
financial
Quick
system
analysis
so
before
we
I get
never
the fuck
see
out of here for y'all.
again what
Okay,
happened in
like I said the other
2008,
day, 2 days ago, 3
1929,
days
so
ago,
many times
the
before.
RSI pointed up. I
Thank you
said
very
to
much,
myself,
Mr.
guys,
Chairman.
that's a very bullish movement. That is very
Thank
good.
you, sir.
What
We'll
happened
now
2
turn
days later?
to our
Bam!
round of questions. We'll
Bam!
offer each member
This is
of
very
the
bullish for the
committee
whole
generous
week now.
5 minutes.
For the whole week, we can
If
be
you like,
pumping.
I'll start the
Okay?
questions off.
Until this blue line finds a little
Ms.
intonation
Mersinger,
that comes
digital assets
downward
and
and
blockchain
flattens,
technology
we're
can
going up
democratize
perpetually.
finance,
Okay? There's nothing
giving every
stopping this.
American, no
Okay?
matter their background, access to financial
XRP
services at
has
lower
made
costs with greater
itself
speed
known.
than ever
And,
before. To achieve
well,
this
if you know
revolutionary
anything about
potential,
XRP
there is
and
widespread
XLM,
agreement
you know
from
they
industry
pump
leaders
together.
to the president and bipartisan members of
All right,
Congress
guys, I gotta
that
go
we
to
must
work.
provide clear rules that foster innovation and
Have a great
protect
day. We'll be back on
investors.
tonight. We'll do a
Listening
night
to you
stream
and frankly, Mr.
and recap
Levin as
everything
well.
because
I
now
think Mr.
crypto,
Levin said
guys,
we need
is
a
getting very
fundamentally
exciting.
new model
Okay.
because we're talking about, frankly, a
It's getting
fundamentally
very
new
exciting.
world. It's
We're
not new today,
entering
but it's
that
new
zone that
to
I've been
those of us who are
talking
going to
about
pass
for many,
legislation.
many
And
months
you talked
now,
about the importance of
and
the
that is that
existing laws
euphoric
as we
phase of
see them
crypto.
are inadequate and
We'll get
frankly
back
not
together,
applicable
guys.
to this new opportunity to
great
be the
morning,
crypto
great
capital
day.
of the world.
We'll be
From
back.
your perspective, why is regulatory clarity so